Howdy, campers. Are you ready for the summer? Too bad, cause we're still in the coldest ice age ever. Yet that won't stop our wacky winter wonders. Remember when we talked about that totally awesome Friday the 13th fan film Never Hike Alone? To celebrate our love for horror icon Jason Voorhees?
Let's do it again!
Okay!
The original flick proved to be such a smash hit that the crack team Womp Stomp Films managed to get a sequel set during the winter season, and have shown that they plan to make the Never Hike title an ongoing series to reward fans fresh, unique Jason stories, while the franchise rights are currently in copyright war between companies, not giving us a new Jason movie. So, we're here to see if them Womp Stompers manage to grant us a satisfying sequel to the original masterpiece. Also, we want more videos that won't get copyright claimed. I love the first Never Hike Alone movie, as it proved to be a true chapter worthy of the franchise. Reminded everyone why Jason Voorhees is a timeless terror icon, and best of all, felt like a genuinely good horror story, outclassing a few modern scary movies. It was so phenomenal, but as per tradition in the Jason saga, they left things open for a follow-up, which Womp Stomp got another crowdfunding to do themselves.
You're a champion! Congratulations, my boy! Here's that bonus!
After achieving high praise for the first flick, Womp Stomp officially got accepted as canon by hardcore fans. So this sequel directly takes place in the timeline, specifically a few decades after Part 6 Jason Lives. Yes sirree Bob! Never Hike in the Snow is a distant sequel to Part 6, and a prequel to Never Hike Alone. As a big fan of the hockey goalie, I can say we're mildly interested in more treats. You totally have to be a fan if you want to enjoy this movie. Otherwise, some plot points and references will fly right over your head. Though the first one also had in-jokes and callbacks itself, yet managed to attract outsiders to Friday's fun. So this movie might do the same. The original fan film was a wild wonder of the world, so does the sequel pull off that same feat? Is this short webisode a perfect gift to open up in the snowy season? Or should it be chucked into the hearth for firewood? Let's find out. Grab your winter jackets and best hiking equipment, cause we're trekking back into the now chilly Crystal Lake. This is our wacky riff view on the highly anticipated Womp Stomp sequel, Never Hike in the Snow. So, our webisode opens up in a spooky fog, revealing that for the first time in the series, snow has arrived in Camp Crystal Lake.
Winter is coming!
The snow was a huge selling point for this film, since most Jason movies are set during the summertime. So Jason killing during a winter level was totally fresh and full of so much potential, which this film works with decently. Sadly, there are some drawbacks as well, which your sexy tomcat will get to. Things are instantly cool at first, as we follow some poor schmuck running for his life, learning too late why you should never hike in the snow.
He said it! He said it!
The snow hiker's of course dodging the J-Man, but he wisely beeps for his car to find a way out, only to give away his position.
Did you forget about me?
Unlike the first flick, which built up to our killer, Jason quickly jumps into this one to give us the return of Archer Jason, who takes the hiker down a leg so he can ask him a few questions. Jason rarely uses long-range weaponry, but when he does, he often loves to torture the target first, so he can brutalize them the old-fashioned way. The snow terrain most likely made it hard for him to chase them faster, but it's great to see a tactic from the 2009 reboot brought back. I stated this in the original, but I love Ghost Jason's design. At this point, he's a full-fledged main character now, so the movie wastes no time restraining him, as Jason is both more physically involved and now casts a shadow over Crystal Lake, as its boogeyman. It looks like the kid's done for, but Jason teleports cause, as I said, Voorhees likes to play with his food. I think I'm okay.
Uh-oh, how's Arnold gonna get out of this one? Tune in next time when Masterpiece of Shit Theater continues.
Wait, we're not at that part yet. We'll learn about Yellow Jacket later. The Axe Mouth is a darn cool kill. Cool enough for a big budget film. Just like the last time, Womp Stomp films have some grand production values and cinematic flair for a YouTube fan film. They truly pour in so much effort that it puts billion-dollar movies to shame for how good it is. I hope these artists get to work on many more pictures after this, since this is amazing. Anyways, the hiker dies, but he gets the last laugh since he annoys Jason by triggering his car alarm.
You bastard!
Jason quickly takes his prize and retreats. The car alarm wasn't all for naught, though, as the police investigate the crime scene, where we're reintroduced to Officer Rick.
Call?
No, not that one. It's the former deputy, Officer Rick Cologne, who's still patrolling Camp Blood. And yes, they actually did get his original actor, Vincent Guastafaro, from Friday the 13th Part 6, to replay his role.
Wherever the red dot goes, you bang.
It's absolutely impressive that this web crew got another OG actor to return to his movie role, since Vince grants these movies a lot more quality, thanks to being his love-to-hate douchey self again, though I am slightly confused over Friday the 13th's continuity, since isn't the game also canon to this saga? You know, the game which also reveals that Shocker shares a horrorverse with Jason, where Tommy says Officer Rick died.
Took me a few years, but eventually I tracked Rick Cologne down in Maryville, Ohio. He was still a police officer, but apparently he had been going under the last name Pastore, his wife's maiden name. I found him too late, though. I found out that Rick had supposedly been murdered by some maniac in Maryville named Pinker.
Oh, Jesus! Help me!
Then again, Jason was also implied to be a deadite in one movie, but Ash Williams never shows up, so who knows. Deputy Rick has been promoted to boss sheriff by today, due to his former boss getting killed by Jason in his last movie, where Cologne sorta becomes a side antagonist, as after all these years, he still refuses to do anything about Jason. Despite knowing that Voorhees is real by now, he has his unit cover up his crime scenes, since he's also well aware that they can't beat him. I have mixed feelings about this plot point, but I'll admit there's very interesting ideas surrounding it. For now, this movie tries to make the morally dubious copper an anti-villain who wants to avoid Jason by any means necessary, since he knows they can't win a fight with the undead. While he and his partner banter, somebody watches from afar. But it's not Jason, it's Tommy Jarvis! Yep, everyone's favorite blind zombie, Tom Matthews, is back, confirming that his character is going to be a vital part in Womp Stomp's Friday timeline. It's so awesome that not only is Tommy Jarvis in the spotlight again, but his best actor, Tom Matthews, continues playing him in more epic Jason tales, and he is, of course, the second best highlight in this next to our zombie Hulk. Tommy Jarvis is now a Sarah Connor / Batman rebel warrior, solving the case of Jason and working on his own crusade to take his archenemy down for good. As a cop reluctantly covers up the death, Tommy leaves a message for him, warning that the monster has returned.
The truth will be revealed!
We cut to Sheriff Rick informing the hiker's mother of her son's disappearance. This scene goes on for quite a long while, as the sheriff breaks the sad news to her, and we get minor flashback scenes showing us how he got caught up in this mess. These segments actually humanize the victims more, showing us the late hiker as a kid named Mark, his happy life, and how the deaths of Jason movies affect loved ones in the aftermath. Friday the 13th was never quite famous for heavy drama, as the tales usually played Jason's kills as cool murder scenes, and gave horror fans massive body counts to enjoy, since ultimately the killer's perspective was the fun part. However, Hike in the Snow does make you care for the victims for once, since we see Mark's mother broken by her son's vanishing, and it makes the kills actual people who Jason harmed, rather than idiots just there to die. I give huge props to the fan film for this, since it surprisingly adds depth to a Jason movie of all things. One flashback shows us that the family recently moved into town, and have almost this tragically mirrored life of Jason and Pamela Voorhees, as they too are also a loving mother and son who came here to feel safer. But Mark ventured out to Crystal Lake to learn about its mystery, since he only wanted some fun. Little did they know this would be the last time they'd ever see each other.
Don't forget, I need you to pick me up at the hospital at 3.
Yeah, I know.
Mark?
Yeah,
Be careful.
always.
While Mark is certainly no upgrade over YouTuber Kyle, the film does add a bleak vibe to the franchise, since it shows the senseless tragedy of Jason's wrath. It's always a good sign when horror stories try to make you care when a person dies. Unfortunately, we also get to the part where my mixed feelings enter. Sheriff Rick's character arc. You see, while the sheriff is doing his job, he also covers up Mark's true disappearance in order to prevent more folks from learning about Jason. The sheriff realizes that Mark was an amateur journalist who was looking into the mystery of Jason and Crystal Lake, where Rick blatantly lies and steals evidence to hide the truth. Sheriff Rick is intended to be a morally gray character, who's doing all this to protect people from knowing about Jason. But honestly, he feels rather villainous, since ultimately, all of this benefits Jason because he's being hidden from the world, and Rick's allowing foolish morons to walk right into the goalie's den, knowing this will also get people killed.
Ooh, if anyone needs me, I'll be in the Angry Dome.
This story point is here to address one of the largest plot holes of the entire Friday the 13th saga. Why do idiots keep going back to Camp Crystal Lake if Jason is there offing 100 folks per week? In every Friday flick, there's constantly groups of teens going there to party or explore the abandoned summer camp, even when Jason slaughters waves of people. And it would make big news that travelers are missing there. Well, according to this movie, they make a fan theory canon, that the cops cover up Jason's murder sprees because they don't want people to know that the supernatural psycho is not a myth or truly out there. It's kind of like Freddy vs. Jason, where the town of Springwood band together to erase Freddy Krueger from existence, in order to prevent him from slowly gaining fear power and kill again, but this time with Mr. Voorhees. The cops and townsfolk believe that if they ignore Jason's existence, then he'll stay hidden within his woods to be alone forever and never haunt them again, while the world goes on like nothing bad will ever happen.
The plan is basically to pave over the area and get on with our lives.
You see, in some Friday films, the town's aware Crystal Lake is cursed, and it's subtly implied a few natives are aware of Jason's existence. But they choose to hide, ignore truths, and avoid the killer as they caught on they can never win as Voorhees is unable to die.
This place is cursed. Cursed.
The sheriff is pretty much spearheading this conspiracy to conceal the harsh facts that Jason's real, and covers up all crimes since he doesn't want people looking further into it, since that would lead to even more deaths and destruction, when he believes leaving Jason alone in his forest is reasonable enough. For all you non-super fans, this is sort of a minor plot element from Part 6, where Rick's boss and best buddy, the former sheriff, wanted to actively erase Jason's legacy from town, because he was trying to return Crystal Lake to normalcy.
I'm sorry about what happened to you and your folks years ago, but no one in Forest Green wants to be reminded of what that maniac did here. That's why we changed the name. People want to forget this was Crystal Lake.
Now, some of you might be saying, that actually sounds quite interesting. It's a great attempt at world building and lore for the Friday saga. What's the problem? Well, I don't think it's executed very well.
Fucking prick.
I know I'll upset J fans, but I wouldn't be a good critic if I said nothing. This is a genuinely cool idea, but the short film doesn't fully pull it off that well. A lot of the hidden conspiracy stuff is just a tad too vague, easy to miss, and confusing, that first-time watchers are not going to grasp that as what's going on. I think the writing leaves a lot open-ended, never answers a ton of questions, doesn't make Rick's side of the story understandable, and just raises further questions. Rick's supposed to be hiding clues for the greater good. But it almost feels like the sheriff refuses to believe Jason's real, and throwing this stuff away because it triggers him. And not him knowing Jason's true, but lying to protect others. It's almost too confusing, and the way some scenes play out make it unclear why he's doing all this, or if it even works. And don't say I'm nitpicking, because guess what? Womp Stomp themselves had to answer questions in their comment sections to inform us on details, since it was that vague. I never got that the sheriff was a part of the Society of the Blind Eye on first watch. I got this from social media comments. It was just too murky. Not to mention, despite making Sheriff Cologne a morally gray character, he's clearly in the wrong, as covering up Jason, lying to families about their loved ones not being dead, swiping evidence, and still never placing a wall between the town and the woods is pretty awful of him. He comes off as too ominous and borderline villainous with the lengths he goes, that you don't totally agree with his method.
It's just a bunch of local horse shit.
Who the hell is Jason?
Now's not the time or place.
Yeah, he doesn't even tell his co-workers about Jason either, despite losing half his unit in the movie. You know, Jason's not like Freddy. He won't gain power by mentioning his mere name, Rickhead. My point is that this feels like sloppy, ominous writing, as the sheriff feels like he's in the wrong, and you side more with Tommy, as he wants to do something to stop Jason over avoiding the problem. A nice attempt at moral ambiguity, but falls short in some areas, thanks to Rick coming off as an immoral coward over an anti-villain. Also, despite Vincent's efforts, I don't think he's a good actor in this.
I promise you, we are going to do everything within our power to find your boy. If you need anything else from me, call me directly.
And maybe, if there's time, I can become a real boy and not a robot. I hope this guy gets fixed in future chapters. But back in the plot, the sheriff gets called away, leaving the mother to grieve over her missing boy. She goes through his laptop, passing by a Kyle cameo, but looks back on the life she lost. It's another strong emotional moment, but all it does is remind me why I don't like Sheriff Cologne, since he's making it worse by lying about him not being dead when these residents won't ever see their loved ones ever again.
Frickin' prick.
We get a sweet transition to Mark's corpse, now a part of Pamela's new shrine in Jason's cabin. It's not nearly as scary as Part 2's shrine, which was super gnarly, but it's good to see that Jason's still tending to her memory after it was forgotten for a while. As he prays to Mommy, Jason stumbles upon Mark's camera, triggering another Nom flashback to reveal how we got here. There's a pretty cool scene where Mark's snapping photos of the camp ruins, where he thinks he saw something in the shadows before the J-Man Kool-Aids himself out to catch that kid for seeing too much. Yep, all Jason wanted was to destroy his camera, but it forced him to off a witness. This scene clarifies another huge fan theory our horror fam has had since the start, that Jason Voorhees is not 100% evil, but deep down, he's only a scared little kid who just wants to be left alone in the woods in peace to be with his mom. We get a trippy, creepy look inside the zombie's mind, where a pro Betsy Palmer impersonator comforts her boy, unmasking him to shower him in love. It's the first tale in a long while where we truly delve into the icon and reminds us of the tragedy behind the Voorhees clan. If you don't recall, Jason was a deformed, retarded boy who wanted to live a peaceful life with his loving ma, but losing her drove him over the edge, and the whole Friday saga has been a downward spiral ever since for both of them. Although it's short, I love this scene, since it's a tragic reminder how Jason wasn't always a monster.
Jason. There you are. So handsome. I've missed you, my sweet boy.
But Tommy's here to finally kick ass, only to flee once the coppers arrive, and gets captured by Rick's laser gun.
No! You're making a big mistake, Sheriff. Cuff him.
Yep, after all that great build-up, Tommy gets arrested and taken out of the rest of the movie, which ultimately means nothing because this is a prequel. Don't! Yeah, a bit hard to fear for Jarvis's bad ending, since I don't think getting arrested allows you to gain a job as a medic with your own ambulance. Usually it's the other way around. He warns them that Jason's out there, but exactly like on Part 6, Sheriff Rick refuses to listen and takes Tommy in for his doctor's license.
How many people gotta die before you wake up?
I got you now, Jarvis. You bang.
Oh my god! I remembered that! There's more there!
This twist sucks, since we know Tommy's going to be on more stories. All tension is drained thanks to this being a prequel and knowing he'll fight Jason again real soon. I have a theory that Tommy gets bailed out by his ex-girlfriend Megan Garris, his love interest, the late sheriff's daughter from Part 6, who still carries a torch for Tommy Boy after defeating Voorhees with him a long summer ago. And she's a rare ally Jarvis still has. Really hope Jennifer Cook considers joining her old co-stars one day, since Sheriff Cologne remains hateful towards Tommy as ever, taking him away and warns his partner to write him off as a crazy bum. However, the deputy heeds Jarvis's warning and stupidly decides to check it out all alone. Won't lie, this final act's a tad underwhelming. Womp Stomp got all these great talents and even fan-favorite Friday stars back, and the finale shifts onto this red shirt cop whose name you don't even remember. This film doesn't quite have a main protagonist, rotating focus on an ensemble cast to make the world feel bigger, but settling on this cop who's totally going to live is a bit of a downgrade since we had Tommy Jarvis on set, and the cool snow scenery completely fades into the background beyond here. The cop basically explores the lost campgrounds, you know, like the last few characters, and he's indoors for most of it. Rumor has it that Womp Stomp had to cut production short since the snow was melting way too fast, and their staff was limited while filming this due to
unspecified virus of unknown origin.
Never Hike in the Snow faced some issues while recording, forcing them to cut a ton of content out entirely and make do with what they had. I totally understand that they had to compromise, and it's a miracle this film turned out as well as it did, even with
unspecified virus of unknown origin
harming the job. Regardless, it still sucks, and contains a load of missed opportunities, since Never Hike in the Snow barely has frickin' snow. We won't be getting as epic a boss fight as Kyle versus Jason. The crew do make up for it since we receive some decent dread as we build up to this guy finding more proof than he bargained for, passing by Marcy's shower crime scene and uncovering a box of hockey masks, including a Roy Burns mask? Yeah, we don't talk about posers in the wood. Upset that part 5 is canon, he packs it up and calls his loving family, telling them he'll be right back after his 2 days from retirement party, before spotting a lit cabin. Naturally, he goes in, finding Jason kneeling before Pam with his sacrifices, where he tries arresting him, which we all know is a big mistake.
Sir, I said put your hands above your head. Dispatch. Dispatch!
I'm Batman.
Headshot.
And that's it. The deputy dies a pretty cool death, Jason remains hidden, and the killer smashes his body cam to hide proof, even though he should have no clue of what a body cam even is because he's a retarded zombie from the 80s who's lived his whole life in the mountains. But that's where the film abruptly ends right when it got cool.
But it's not over yet!
Indeed, since we also have a bonus scene. This clip was the original ending of the film, but got cut in development since they didn't finish filming it, thanks to
unspecified virus of unknown origin.
In the extended cut, we get a cameo from Tracy Savage as a news reporter. Savage was the hot chick from Friday the 13th Part 3D, but this role as Crystal Lake's reporter is an in-joke, since she once quit acting to become a journalist in real life, which is a clever nod fans will love. Although she has a minor Stan Lee cameo, it's so fun. Tracy Savage is herself, reporting on the lost deputy's disappearance, where she got an interview from Sheriff Rick, claiming it to be an accident.
We were able to find a trail of footprints. However, it looks like he mistakenly walked out onto the lake and fell through the ice.
I don't believe this. They're lying on the news.
I wish this ending was kept in the main cut, since it's a vastly stronger endnote. Not only does it solidify the town with a dark secret subplot thanks to Rick blatantly lying through his teeth, but it's slightly more fun for the world building of all this. Plus, it openly tells you this is a prequel and not a continuation, since Tracy also reports that Kyle, the famous YouTuber, is on his way. To podcast broadcast in their small town, confirming that this is gearing up to Never Hike Alone 1. But nope, this was a Crypt TV short since the filmmakers wanted the movie to open up on Jason killing a guy and end on Jason killing a guy for a deep bookends or whatever. But this alternate ending is my canon finale.
Meet travel junkie Kyle McLeod when we come back.
And that was the end of the holiday sequel, Never Hike in the Snow. And it was alright, but I didn't love it as much as the first one.
Frickin' prick.
Now, don't misinterpret. I do think this is a pretty decent story arc, and it has a lot to love, since it fleshes out the Fridayverse, showers us fans with a ton of love, greatly builds up the town of Crystal Lake, and is a dark drama. However, my problem is, it feels unfinished. We're missing some pieces for a larger puzzle. There's a few misses in the direction. It can't decide on who the main protagonist should be. Jason is barely in it, and it stops mega abruptly. I know it's unfair to criticize it since the staff suffered from
unspecified virus of unknown origin,
but I simply wish it took time to get everything finished up instead of altering course. That this was all a first chapter of setup with small payoff. Never Hike Alone 1 was both a love letter for fans, but also an introduction into the nightmares of Voorhees. It entertained old school fans, but also showed newbies how cool Jason is. This movie feels like a Jason Chronicles episode. It's setting up this big epic anime arc, filling in gaps for the films and world builds, but falls short, since it feels like a middle chapter rather than a standalone title. Now, I'm not used to reviewing stories chapter by chapter like an anime arc, especially for horror, since I usually judge a story as a whole complete journey. However, I can understand that the staff had to compromise for the sake of entertaining us, and grant some leeway. It's not their fault they had to work around
unspecified virus of unknown origin,
and issues which halted production. Womp Stomp is openly all in on a multi-part saga for their Jason, and it's safe to say that they deserve it after seeing so many good moments in a more low-key sequel here. That being said, I still stand by most of my criticisms. Sheriff Rick comes across as too unlikable to see his side of things. There's way too many vague variables, more questions are raised than answered. The snow theme is a letdown, and the abrupt ending comes too sudden, since you want to see more. Luckily, I can safely say it functions well enough to still be far away from unwatchable. Tommy Jarvis is just as cool as ever, and I want to see him square off with Jason Laurie versus Michael Myers style. The Easter eggs are delicious and slick, subtle winks to the fans. The cinematography is just as awesome as in the first ride. The character studies are unique. The top-notch ideas are forming. The kills are as epic as the movie deaths. And best of all, Jason is still a force to fear. Never Hike in the Snow sought to be a middle chapter bridging other Friday flicks together, and to be fair, it does succeed. In the end, this short has flaws, yet proves to push the envelope for what fan films can truly accomplish, and still holds value for fans, even glowing from the bottom of a murky lake. So, I grant this tale a gold skull, unfinished, yet clearly a seed planting the early stages of something beautiful on the way. We've seen superior from Mr. Voorhees, but hey, still better than the final Friday. Never Hike in the Snow is a decent sleigh ride to enjoy if you're a horror fan, as it's a steady start, slowly snowballing into something more. I'm your host, Catastrophe, and oh no, the snow's melting! Winter is ending!